Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, we are getting into Act 3, Scene 1 today. I just have to show you who my buddy is here. Say hi, Tiny. Over here. Look at the camera. Yep, so my buddy is going to help me read Act 3, Scene 1 today. Okay, so we just finished reading Act 2, and just to quickly recap, in Act 1, we were introduced to the basic plot, the setting, the characters, and then in Act 2, we had the rising action. So suspense started to build as Friar Lawrence decided to marry the two enemies, the Montagues and the Capulets, hoping that this would put an end to the feud, right? Now in Act 3, we have the climax. So things are really starting to get tense and heat up. When we go to Scene 1, in your book, it notes that this takes place in a public place in Verona, okay? When Benvolio starts off here, he's going to be commenting on how hot it is, right? So a really hot day in Italy. Whenever an author is talking about oppressive heat, a lot of the times this is also going to mirror the tension that many of the characters are also going to be experiencing. So Benvolio says to his buddies, Mercutio and a bunch of their other guy friends, I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the capitals are abroad, and if we meet, we shall not escape a brawl. For now, these hot days is the mad blood stirring. Mercutio, thou art like one of these fellows that when he enters the confines of a tavern, claps me his sword upon the table and says, God send me no need of thee, and, by the operation of the second cup, draws him on the drawer when indeed there is no need. Am I like such a fellow? Come, come, thou art as hot a jack in thy mood as any in Italy, and as soon moved to being moody, and as soon moody to being moved. And what two? Nay, and there were two such, we should have none shortly, for one would kill the other. Thou, why, thou wilt quarrel with a man that hath a hair more or a hair less in his beard than thou hast. Thou wilt quarrel with a man for cracking nuts, having no other reason but because they have hazel eyes. What eye but such an eye would spy out such a quarrel? Thy head is as full of quarrels as an egg is full of meat, and yet thy head hath been beaten as an addle as an egg for quarreling. Thou hast quarrelled with a man for coughing in the street because he hath wakened thy dog that hath lain asleep in the sun. Didst thou not fall out with the tailor for wearing his new doublet before Easter? With another for tying his new shoes with an old ribbon? And yet thou wilt tutor me for quarreling. Mercutio, every time he talks, it's like, what is he saying, right? But I'm just going to quickly sum up. He's basically accusing Benvolio for being like such a fellow that would start fights. Now, this is a little bit ironic because Benvolio is constantly trying to break up fights, right? Even here, he's trying to get Mercutio off the streets of Verona to escape a brawl, as he says. Benvolio says, and I were so apt to quarrel as thou art, any man should buy the fee simple of my life for an hour and a quarter. The fee simple? Oh, simple. Now enter Tybalt, Petruchio, and others. So these are the Capulets who are now approaching. Okay, this is no good. Okay. Also, let me make note here that Romeo and Juliet are now married. Juliet and Tybalt are cousins. So that would mean that Romeo and Tybalt are now also kinsmen to some extent. Benvolio, by my head, here comes the Capulets. By my heel, I care not. Tybalt to his companions, follow me close, for I will speak to them. Gentlemen, good evening. A word with one of you, and but one word with one of us. Couple it with something. Make it a word and a blow. Okay, so you could see right off the bat, Mercutio is he's like instigating this fight a little. You shall find me apt enough to that, sir, and you will give me an occasion. Could you not take some occasion without the giving? Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo. Consort, what dost thou make us, minstrels? And thou makest minstrels of us. Look to hear nothing but discords. Here's my fiddlestick. Here's that shall make you dance. Zounds, consort. Benvolio, we talk here in the public haunt of men. Either draw unto some private place, or reason coldly of your new grievances. or else depart. Here all eyes gaze on us. So Mercutio and Tybalt are going back and forth here, back and forth, and they're kind of giving each other lip, right? I picture two men like getting in each other's faces a little bit. And Benvolio was like, guys, we got to get out of the public eye. Everybody's looking at us, okay? Once again, Benvolio is trying to keep the peace. Mercutio says, men's eyes were made to look, and let them gaze. I will not budge for no man's pleasure. I enter Romeo, who again just got married, consummated the marriage, and so you know he's in good spirits. Tybalt. Well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man. Well, I'll be hanged, sir, if he wear your livery. Marry, go before to field. He'll be your very follower. Your worship in that sense may call him man. Tybalt. Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain. Tybalt, the reason that I have to lovely doth much excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. Villain am I none, therefore farewell. I see thou knowest me not. Okay, so here Romeo is basically trying to push Tybalt away and say, I am not a villain, right? The reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse this rage that you're exhibiting right now. Okay, obviously, dramatic irony. We know that he's talking about the fact that they're family now. Tybalt does not yet know that. Tybalt replies to this, boy, this shall not excuse the injuries thou hast done me. Therefore, turn and draw. So, what are the injuries that thou hast done him? Showing up at the party without, reason to be there. Okay, so Tybalt is still fired up about this. Romeo says, I do protest I never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise, till thou shalt know the reason of my love. And so, good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as my own, be satisfied. Mercutio. Mercutio is absolutely disgusted by Romeo's effeminate behavior here. Oh, calm, dishonorable, vile submission. He thinks that he's submitting to Tybalt's challenge. Obviously, Mercutio doesn't know why Romeo is treating him this way. Alla stoccata carries it away. He draws his sword. Okay, Mercutio can't stand it any longer. Tybalt, you rat catcher, will you walk? Tybalt says, what wouldst thou have with me? Mercutio says, good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives, that I mean to make bold withal, and, as you shall use me hereafter, dry beat the rest of the 8. Will you pluck your sword out of his pilcher by the ears? Make haste, lest mine be about your ears ere it be out. Tybalt, I am for you. He draws. Romeo, good Mercutio, put thy rapier up, put thy sword up. So Romeo is trying to separate the two of them here, okay? Mercutio says, come, sir, you're passado. And they get into an intense sword fight, okay? Romeo, draw Benvolio, beat down their weapons, okay? Romeo draws his sword at this point. So it's very chaotic, kind of like our universe right now. And then he says, gentlemen, for shame forbear this outrage. Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince hath expressly forbid this bandying in Verona streets. Hold, Tybalt, hold, good Mercutio. Romeo attempts to beat down their rapiers. Okay, rapiers are swords. So he's trying to part them, and Tybalt stabs Mercutio. Away, Tybalt! Tybalt, Mercutio, and their followers, they all exit, so they run away. Mercutio, meanwhile, has been stabbed, and he says, I am hurt. And he screams at the top of his lungs, a plague on both of your houses. I am sped. Is he gone and hath nothing? Has he escaped, he's asking, and he doesn't even have a scratch on him? Benvolio, what? Art thou hurt? Mercutio responds to Romeo's question. Benvolio doesn't know that he had been hurt. And so Mercutio says, I, a scratch. Marry, 'tis enough. Where is my page? Go, villain, fetch a surgeon. Okay, so he must be pretty badly wounded. Romeo, courage, man, the hurt cannot be much. Again, Benvolio and Romeo really don't know the extent um, of his wound here. Mercutio says, no, 'tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough. 'Twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. Okay, ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. Right? So he's punning here. Obviously, when you're dead, you're in a grave. And so he knows that this is not going to be a wound that he will heal from. He says, I am peppered. I warrant for this world a plague on both your houses. Okay, so he's kind of cursing them. He's blaming the feud. Zounds, a dog, a rat, a mouse, a cat, to scratch a man to death, a braggart, a rogue, a villain that fights by the book of arithmetic. Why the devil came you between us? I was hurt under your arm. Okay, so he's here. Romeo is putting his arms up, trying to separate the two of them, and that is how Tybalt ultimately is able to get in there and hurt him. Romeo says, I thought all for the best. And he did, just like Friar Lawrence had good intentions of marrying the two of them. Romeo had good intentions in trying to break them up. Mercutio, help me into some house, Benvolio, or I shall faint. A plague on both your houses. They have made worm's meat of me. I have it, and soundly too. Your houses. All but Romeo exit. Romeo, this gentleman, the Paris's near ally, my very friend, hath got this mortal hurt in my behalf. My reputation stained with Tybalt's slander. Tybalt, that an hour hath been my cousin. O sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel. He blames Juliet and his love for her for this perceived weakness, right? So in Elizabethan society, to be so in love, right, would have probably been a little bit shameful, right? The only thing that seems to emerge here as hope for the audience is their love. It's set against a very violent backdrop. Now enter Benvolio. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. That gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here did scorn the earth. Romeo, this day's black fate on more days doth depend, but this but begins the woe others must end. Now enter Tybalt once more. Benvolio, here comes the furious Tybalt back again. Romeo, alive in triumph, and Mercutio slain, away to heaven, respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now, right? So he's asking no longer for love to dictate his behavior, but fire-eyed fury conduct me now, right? So he's pretty heated here at the death of his best friend, which obviously, if somebody killed your best friend, you might feel this way too. Now, Tybalt, take the villain back again, that late thou gavest me, for Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him. Thou wretched boy that didst consort him here, shalt with him hence. So Tybalt says, right, that you are also going to die like Mercutio. Okay, so he is engaged in this duel now. Romeo says, this shall determine that. And the two of them have a pretty intense sword fight here. Benvolio, Romeo, away, be gone. The citizens are up and Tybalt slain. Oh, I forgot to say that. Okay, so they fight and then Tybalt falls. So Romeo surprisingly comes out the winner here. Benvolio, Romeo, away, begone. The citizens are up and Tybalt is slain. Stand not amazed. The prince will doom thee to death if thou art taken. Hence, begone, away. Benvolio's like, get the hell out of here right now. Okay, Romeo stands here for a very famous line in this play, and he yells out, I am fortune's fool, right? So this kind of this makes us think back to the star-crossed lovers and the F word, which I keep coming back to throughout this play. He is the victim of fate, or so he says. Mercutio had said a plague on both your houses, right? So Mercutio is blaming the feud, and Romeo is blaming fate. Benvolio says, Why dost thou stay? Now Romeo runs away. So he is hightailing it out of Verona. Okay, and the citizens all enter. Citizen, which way he that killed Mercutio, Tybalt, that murderer, which way ran he? Benvolio, there lies that Tybalt. To Tybalt, up, sir, go with me. I charge thee in the prince's name, obey. Now the prince, old Montague, Capulet, and their wives are all on the scene. Where are the vile beginners of this fray? Benvolio. O noble prince, I can discover all the unlucky manage of this fatal brawl. There lies the man slain by young Romeo, that slew thy kinsman, brave Mercutio. So this is an important line because it tells us that Mercutio is family to the prince. Okay? And it kind of is reminiscent to the very opening scene of the play. Benvolio is once again recapping the battle that had taken place. Lady Capulet says, Tybalt, my cousin, O my brother's child, O prince, O cousin, husband, O the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman prince, as thou art true for blood of ours, shed blood of Montague, O cousin, cousin. And the prince says, Benvolio, who began this bloody fray? Again, reminiscing of that first opening scene. Benvolio, Tybalt, here slain, whom Romeo's hand did slay. Romeo that spoke him fair, bid him bethink how nice the quarrel was, and urged with all your high displeasure. So he's reiterating here that Romeo tried to break up this fight, saying that the prince told us not to do this, which is true. All this uttered with gentle breath, calm look, knees humbly bowed, could not take truce with the unruly spleen of Tybalt, death to peace, but that he tilt with piercing steel at bold Mercutio's breast, who, all as hot, turns deadly point to point, and, with a martial scorn, with one hand beats cold death aside, and with the other sends it back to Tybalt, whose dexterity retorts it. Romeo, he cries aloud, hold, friends, friends, part, and swifter than his tongue, his agile arm beats down their fatal points, and twixt them rushes. Twixt means between. So Romeo between them rushes, okay? Underneath whose arm an envious thrust from Tybalt hit the life of stout Mercutio, and then Tybalt fled. But by and by comes back to Romeo, who had but newly entertained revenge, and to it they go like lightning for before I could draw to part them was stout Tybalt slain, and as he fell did Romeo turn and fly. This is the truth, or let Benvolio die. Lady Capulet says, he is a kinsman to the Montague. Affection makes him false. He speaks not true. Some 20 of them fought in this black strife, and all those 20 could but kill one life. I beg for justice, which thou, prince, must give. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live. So Lady Capulet is begging for, she doesn't know this, right? But he is her son-in-law, and she is begging for him to be put to death as a result of this murder. The prince responds, saying, Romeo slew him, he slew Mercutio, who now the price of his dear blood doth owe. Montague, not Romeo, prince. He was Mercutio's friend. His fault concludes, but what the law should end, the life of Tybalt. So Montague, Romeo's father, is stepping in and saying, hey, we can't put Romeo to death because Mercutio started this. I mean, Tybalt is the one who really started this. He's dead, and so is Mercutio. So really, it's kind of a life for a life here. Now listen to what the prince decides. And for that offense immediately do we exile him hence. What does exile mean? Exile means to banish, right? To excommunicate, to kick out. So if I were to exile you from Pompton Lakes, you would have to go reside in Butler, perhaps, okay? So immediately do we exile him hence. I have an interest in your heart's proceeding. My blood for your rude brawls doth lie a bleeding. He's talking here about Mercutio, okay? Because that's his blood, his family. But I'll amerce you with so strong a fine that you shall all repent the loss of mine. I will be deaf to pleading and excuses. No tears or prayers shall purchase out abuses. Therefore use none. Let Romeo hence in haste. Else, when he is found, that hour is his last. Bear hence this body, and attend our will. Mercy but murders, pardoning those that kill. Now everybody leaves. Okay, so this scene ends with the prince saying that Romeo better never show his face here in Verona again. Now, why is this problematic? Don't step on my computer. Why is this problematic? Because who is in Verona? Romeo is going to be banished and he will no longer be able to see Juliet. So how do you imagine he might respond to that? So I want you thinking about that, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop this now. And if you have any questions, obviously reach out.